Well,
We
you know
do.
what? Why don't? All right. Well, I know Kathy's on a tight schedule and she fit us in. So why don't we just turn it over to Kathy and then we'll go to the regular meeting when she's concluded.
Hey, Jerry, how are you? Hey, Lisa, nice to see you.
Hey,
Hey,
Some
very
people I
good,
don't know.
Kathy. Very good.
I'm right here. There's some people I don't know, and I'm just happy to meet you all today. Beautiful spring day here in New York, and I'm thrilled to be with you. It's been quite an adventure the last some odd months since I've been in this dual role. But it's been great to be back on Long Island. It's been great to sort of reconnect with the people like Hector that I used to work with when I was at Long Island the first time. And just to, especially spend a lot of my time with respect to some of the challenges of the Eastside Access Project, because I do think it's going to be just an absolutely transformational project for Long Island. I grew up on Long Island, and just to have that service to Grand Central, I think is going to be just going to really revolutionize, the way our customers travel, but also is going to be such an economic driver for the region. That in conjunction with the mainline expansion, both coming online towards the end of this year. It's just such an exciting time for the railroad, and I'm just so pleased and proud to be, here and leading the organization during this historic time.
Well, that's great. We just asked you to stop by today just so that our members could get to meet you. I don't know whether Larry had ever met you before. A couple of other members unfortunately aren't here right now, but it's always good to see. Well, the staff also is on board, and we have a couple of concerned citizens who are watching it. No, so we just want to thank you for everything that you've been doing. I know it's got to be crazy trying to run the two largest feeder railroads in North America simultaneously.
Yeah, I get a lot of support. I'm very lucky. I mean, I've got people like Hector, I've got Rob Free, I've got, just a terrific team at Long Island who, is supporting me there. I've got an equally talented team at Metro North, and I kind of, ping pong back and forth, and I'm spending, roughly 50% of my time at each railroad. Yesterday I started here in New York and spent the afternoon in Jamaica. And, so I'm kind of all over the place. I was out in Mineola for the garage opening the other day. So I'm kind of all over the place these days, but it sure makes the weeks go fast. I can't, I turn around and it's Friday again. So it's time is flying by.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
I hope you're getting frequent flyer miles.
I was gonna say, my goodness, yeah, I'll be able to go to Hawaii or something.
Right.
Not to put you on the spot now, certainly, but one of the things that we'll be looking at or for over the next couple of months is the service plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Site access. I know it's in the early formative stages, but I think that's the thing that everybody's kind of looking to find out. We're just kind of anxious to see how that's going to work out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're working on that. We're putting the finishing touches on that, as well as a plan for getting that out to interested groups like yours to, for your feedback and just to let you know what it is that we're thinking with respect to opening day service.
Okay, great. Lisa, do you have anything for Kathy before she takes off?
Well, Kathy, I don't know if you've actually met all of our staff. Kara and Jessica are our two newest members. We're thrilled to have them. Jess is our administrative assistant.
Very nice to meet you.
She's a former conductor and has many tales to tell. And Kara joins us as our research and communications associate. Big news of the day is Bradley has accepted our associate director position. So we're really
congratulations. That's wonderful. Terrific.
Yeah, well, if you happen to know of a good transportation planner, could you send their resume over to us?
Yeah, no, I would say the same thing. If you know of one, send it over to me.
Maybe we can share the same person or people.
Absolutely. We can do a job share. That'd be great.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. I also want to thank Nick and Hector for helping out something that was happening in Long Island City.
Okay.
They allowed me to enter my block again. So I appreciate their assistance there.
It's all good. It's part of the job.
And we're looking forward to a preview of ESA also before
I mean, I've been, I think I've had this conversation with a number of people. I mean, I think wearing my two hats, I'm just really excited about the project because it kind of knits the two systems together. And I do think, at least in terms of how I've been talking about the project, I mean, sure, it shortens commutes to East Midtown, which I think is important and a really huge benefit, but also the way it's going to knit the region together, people being able to kind of traverse the two systems. If you live on Long Island, you can take a job in the Bronx. If you live in Westchester, you can take a job in Mineola. I mean, just the ability, and not to mention, the leisure destinations, in both systems, being able to, have Westchester people go to Long Beach and Long Beach people go to, hike in the mountains. I mean, I do think that it's really just that regional connectivity. I think, in terms of how we've talked about this project historically, we haven't really pushed that enough. And I do think that as we're sort of in this pre-COVID place where we're, riding differently at different times and different reasons, I think that regional connectivity is a particularly exciting part of this project.
Great.
Definitely.
All righty.
Catherine?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Larry Rubinstein. I'm the vice chair of the Long Island Railroad Community Council. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
I just asked that, if you try to involve us more in the planning and all that, because it would be great that we were involved in it from the beginning instead of just getting a plan saying this is what we're doing. Because I think we may have a little more input as to the writer's side and be able to help you guys out, even right down to, it was never decided how tracks and everything on East Side Access are going to be named. And when we were down there, it was really confusing what's left, what's right, up or lower. So, things like that. So we might be able to help you out on something like that.
Understood. And I think later on the agenda, Hector is going to speak a little bit about the, some of the outreach that's going to happen over the course of the next few months with respect to this project. So
Sorry to jump ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Hector can fill in some of the details on that. But very nice to meet you. Thank you.
That'd be greatly appreciated. Before you go, I just want to thank you for something that you did in your role as the Metro North president and letting us use one of your conference rooms yesterday. We had a little training session, myself and Lisa and a couple of other folks. So it was very enlightening. I know we took up your conference room for the whole day.
Always happy to help out.
It was greatly appreciated, and
No
it was
problem.
definitely worthwhile too.
Oh,
And I'm
terrific.
sure Randy and Andrew, thank you as well.
Nope, no problem at all. Happy to accommodate.
Yeah, and that was Tony Greco and Linda Morris were very helpful on that level.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'll let them know.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
All
I'm
right,
gonna,
Catherine,
I'm,
we know
I'm
you're
gonna hop
busy.
off. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank
Thank
you
you.
for stopping by. It's really
Okay.
appreciated. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
You too
Thanks,
now.
you too.
All righty, did we get a third member yet? I don't,
No, I'll reach out to Chrissy and Peter and see if they're going to be joining us.
all right, well, in the interest of time, we'll keep rolling. Yeah, I mean, we only need them to officially adopt the agenda and the meeting minutes. So I'll go down to my chair's report. Yeah, another fairly quiet month. Third Track and ESA continue to move ahead on schedule, as well as the Penn Station concourse work. And I'm sure Hector will fill us in a little more on that as well. Some of our council members have expressed concerns regarding the motorized bike scooters, which are becoming more and more common on the Long Island Railroad. We are reaching out to MTA senior management regarding the issue, while simultaneously doing some research on this subject. Later in this meeting, we'll discuss this a little further. PCAC has been tasked with making recommendations to the MTA and New York State via legislation passed during the last session regarding making the MTA system more accessible to bicycle riders. Unfortunately, we are on a very tight schedule, being required to issue these recommendations by June 1st. Needless to say, we'll be looking for input from all of our councils, and we'll be discussing this further later this afternoon. In fact, we have a presentation on that, right, Lisa? Okay.
Yes,
Okay. And as Lisa mentioned, Bradley Bashir has agreed to take the position as the PCA, the Associate Director. So we will now begin the process of backfilling his vacated position, which I believe was Transportation Planner, right, Lisa? Is that the position he vacated, Transportation Planner?
right. So we need to go to, we need to go to vacancy control and ask for permission and beg for forgiveness. But I've already started that process to do that. It seems like this is a good time we're not in the deep dark crisis that we were, so it's a good time to move forward with that. So we have to brush off the job description and see how we want to revise it at all. So
Okay.
we'll be doing that as well.
Very good. And, well, it wasn't on the chair's report that was sent out to everybody. Just today, we got word that legislation will be introduced in Congress by our Long Island congressional delegation for recovery of wage works, transit checks, et cetera, deductions for people who unfortunately had more money taken out than necessary and now find themselves working at home, or in some cases, not working at all. We're still trying to fine tune some of the information as to who's entitled to what, but that's, again, we just got word on this morning, and we will follow it up, and we will keep everybody posted as to what our congressional delegation is doing.
I really want to give a shout out to the work that you've done on this, Jerry and Larry, because you've elevated this issue to the forefront. You know, in June of 2020, you raised this as an issue. You started hearing about it. You really brought it up, really pushed on it. Some of the electeds had started talking about it, but you've been, and I'm going to use this word in the best possible way, relentless, in making sure that it's been in the forefront and really holding the feet to the fire and finding, you know, the people and keeping in touch with people who've been had money withheld and who've had issues with wage works and these transit benefits. And it is in large part because of your efforts that this legislation is being introduced. So this is really what this is all about. Congratulations.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a start. I just wish the legislation would be more encompassing, as we've spoken about, because it is limiting to the people that are able to take advantage of this. And it's a step in the right direction, but I think we still have to keep the pressure on, because I don't think there's anything that can be done about it, because money that people have lost it. It's gone. They're not going to get it back. And only those people that are still working with their employers are entitled to that benefit.
Well, again, you know, it's unfortunately, it's not perfect, but it's something. So even half a loaf is better than none, and better late than never. So we just got to take what we can get. And I spoke to Alfonso over at Newsday today, and I tried to keep it as positive as possible, because we want to have a great working relationship with our congressional delegation and with our senators. And I just want to thank you, Larry, because a lot of what you were able to ferret out from fellow commuters really, I think, made the difference. You were able to pinpoint a couple of people that had like $800, $1,000 in their accounts, which kind
2,000.
of struck home. Well, yeah. I mean, if we were talking about, well, this guy had $215 and this guy had $185, I don't think it would have hit home as much as when you're telling people at $800, $1,000, $2,000 in there. And then also the stories about clandestine meetings and parking lots
Yeah.
to buy
The real
tickets
thing
at a
that-
discount and stuff like that. That kind of also hit home about the desperation of some of these people who wanted to recover their money one way or the other. So
Yeah, the real crazy thing about this is that most people don't realize this is not just New York. This is federal. This is
Yep.
across the country in all metropolitan areas that have transit. We're subject to this issue, this problem.
oh yeah, I'm sure Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia, they all feel in the same pinch we did.
I also reached out to the Times reporter who we'd spoken with last year
Okay.
to let her know that this was coming too. So
Okay.
I haven't heard back from her, but you know, in other places, it's not real if it doesn't happen in the Times.
Yeah.
So
Lisa, let me ask you a question. The legislation was being proposed today. That's not a vote. it's still got to go for debate and all this other nonsense, correct?
So I don't know if it's going to be debated, but I would say, I don't know how controversial it is, but everything is controversial.
Yeah.
And so there's no such thing as a sure thing.
Yeah.
But I think that there is, I haven't seen who from the Long Island delegation has signed on.
Yeah, I mean,
If it's,
Catherine
if
Rice
it's
is,
bipartisan, then that will be helpful.
right, Catherine Rice is Democrat, right?
Yes,
She is, but if Lee Zeldin signed on, then that's helpful.
Right.
and I think Swazi's good to go on that as well, if I'm not mistaken.
But he's not federal, he's state, right?
Oh, he's
Oh.
federal.
He's
He
Oh,
federal.
he's federal, okay.
The confusion there is he wants to run for governor, but
Right.
he's got a primary hopeful to do that. So whether he even gets on the ballot or not, is another story, but
And our
but
friend,
he's still our congressman, so,
yeah, and our friend Andrew is potentially coming back on too, so.
well, we'll see. All righty, well, that concludes my report. We'll go down, Lisa, whatever you wanted to bring up.
So I'm going to turn to Kara because, and she'll go over the social media information and report that and feed input that we've gotten, which has also been relatively quiet. I will say that yesterday, Jerry and Andrew and I attended the Crane's New York Business Brunch, brunch. It was definitely not brunch, breakfast. And in his remarks, Jano talked about some of the fare discounts and recognized Jerry and Andrew for their work on things like the 20 trip discounts and Atlantic ticket and city ticket and the like. So that was very, very welcome and rewarding. So again,
Yep.
very, very nicely done. And he reinforced the need to focus on operating funding and the need to work collaboratively on operating funding. And before the breakfast, somebody had whispered that he was going to make an announcement. So I went up to him and said, "What's the announcement?" And he said, "It's not really an announcement, but when we talk about operating funds." So I said, "Just remember that we're here to work with you, and we're advocates are part of the equation." So he knows that, and we're looking forward to continuing that conversation if these elections ever happen and we can move past it.
Yep, we hear you. So,
Yes, Kara, why don't you give
Kara's
us a
Yes, so we did not receive any direct emails this month. It's been relatively quiet, but we are still monitoring the Long Island Railroad social media and just seeing what writers are writing to them about. By far, the biggest thing is mask compliance. A lot of people were even asking whether or not the mandate is still in effect because people have expressed that many people are not wearing masks on trains anymore. Also, some confusion about whether or not they can use e-tickets for certain discount fares and whether the 20 trip and monthly tickets apply to peak versus off-peak hours for the railroad. And the railroad has been helpful in addressing those concerns on Twitter, at least. And then also some people are receiving emails about activating their tickets after they've boarded the train. And some people are upset about the tone of that email, but the Long Island Railroad Twitter account always does explain to them that the rule is that you do need to activate the ticket prior to boarding, just to make sure that people aren't trying to get on for a free ride. But generally, yeah, the most important thing is the mask compliance, I would say.
ready? Anything else, Kara? Or we good?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, Lisa, you got anything else or?
No, well, I'll say one of the things that Randy mentioned yesterday was complaints that he's heard that half price riders can't use, or that there's no discount rides during off-peak, that there's no off-peak reduced fare rides. No, that's not true. That you can't use your off-peak, your reduced fare ride during peak times,
During the morning peak time.
during the
Oh.
morning peak times. And on Metro North, I guess it's morning peak goes both ways. So he thought that people who use reduced fare should be able to do that during any peak time, during any train trip. So I don't know what, you know, I don't know, Hector, if that's something that's been raised or used to be.
I mean, that's an old policy based on when trains were so overcrowded that, you know, it was a way of not getting the, you know, in the sense of peak trains already so packed. So it's a way of getting people to, you know, if they wait till the off peak, you can get the discount. Because even with a monthly, if you're traveling every day and you're going peak, the monthly is cheaper than even with, I think, even with the senior fare, if you're traveling every day.
Yeah, no, the thing, and I think we questioned it once before, probably a few years back, maybe several years back. What we couldn't seem to understand is why do you allow it in the afternoon, you don't allow it in the morning? You know, if it's a rush hour prohibition, then it should be a rush hour prohibition. Just, you know, you can't use it during either rush hour, but that's what has a few people upset. And whenever anybody's asking about it, I can't give them a logical explanation because it's like, well, the rush hour is the rush hour. So why is the morning rush hour different than the evening rush hour? They're both 4-hour time periods. And, you know, I'm at a total loss. So, I mean, that's something, I don't know, maybe now because ridership is down, maybe we can talk to somebody about addressing that. I don't know if it's just a Long Island Railroad policy change or an MTA policy change. I believe Metro North has the same situation, if I'm not mistaken. So. All right, we're not asking you for an answer right now, Hector. I know that's something that's been a policy for a while, and, you know, the powers that be would have to make a decision on that. Well, actually, we're done, so we're up to you in the agenda, Hector. So we can just go right on down. I guess the first thing we want to discuss, though, is the mask enforcement updates. I noticed, I was in yesterday, and we were lucky, maybe 50% of the riders on the Long Island Railroad were wearing masks. It was a little better on the subways, but I don't know what you're seeing or what your people are telling you.
I ride the train, so I see it. So, you know, it's just an enforcement issue, but I see it.
Okay. How's the ridership doing? Are we up to 60% yet, or are we still in the 50s? Or
It's still in the 50s. As yesterday, it was like 56% of, you know, pre-COVID levels. So it's hovering between 50 and 56% on weekdays.
Yeah, this is Peter. I concur, and I travel every day both ways. You know, I would say in the 50-60% are not wearing masks.
oh no, the 50-60%, that was the percentage of riders, pre-COVID ridership.
Oh, I'm sorry, but then
But yeah,
you know, the amount of
it's
people
probably
not wearing
similar
masks.
for
And
mask
you know,
compliance
this
as
is
well.
whether there is. I've seen it when police officers are in the same car, standing there, and they're not even wearing masks. So, you know, I think we talked via email on this last week or the week before.
Yeah, no, and that's something I had brought up to Pat Warren, also the MTA safety person, that it's not right, you know, and we have employees that aren't recognizing the mandate. So how is it, you know, it's very difficult to get the customers to follow suit.
Yeah, all the conductors do wear masks. I have to say that.
Yeah, the conductors have been pretty good about it.
Yeah,
Yep.
they have.
Surprisingly, the ones who I haven't been seeing wear them are generally police officers.
Yep, in Penn Station too.
Yep. And it's not just the Long Island Railroad problem, because when we were in Grand Central yesterday, we saw the exact same thing. And I saw a couple of police officers who weren't wearing masks. We had police officers who were wearing masks, who were patrolling the station, and they'd walk right past people without masks. And I wasn't expecting them to write tickets, but I would have at least expected them to say, you really should have a mask on, and maybe offer it to them or tell them where they could get one. Nothing. They just kept walking. It was like it wasn't even an issue.
Yeah, this issue, as we all know, is like a tinderbox. So, you say one thing to one person about a mask, be prepared for some wrath.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I've seen Long Island Railroad representatives at the bottom of the new staircase that goes up to
33rd.
33rd Street. Yeah, at the bottom of that bottom of the elevators handing out masks. They're there quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I saw her yesterday. There was a lady doing that.
Yep.
Just yesterday morning around 7 o'clock.
That's the only place I've ever seen anybody handing them out, but for
I
free.
wonder if those are those people on the way up or on the way down?
Down. They're at the down all the way. They're down at the bottom of the escalators in Penn where the old ticket area used to be.
So in the evening rush?
I saw her in the morning rush.
Yeah, I think I've seen them in the evening rush. So they're there
Okay,
throughout
so
the day.
so it's both. So I wonder if they're transit then. I don't know. Does
They're
it?
wearing vests, so I don't know who they're
Yeah.
It's a
with.
good thing that they're out there.
Oh, yeah, no, not complaining. Not about that, that's for sure.
Well, the machine, those machines charge you $6 for a mask or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Is there more ridership on weekends and off peak? Is that increasing like as it is with the others?
It depends. That gets high. That gets higher, like 70 in the high 70s, 80s. But it depends on the day, and it depends what's going on. If it's good weather, if it's if there's baseball games going on. So
On my train, both ways, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday seems to be the big day going into work. And Monday and Fridays is down about, I'd say 30%, 40%. In other words, the train, all the seats are taken. So you can tell there's a big crowd, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And on Mondays and Fridays, you still have empty seats before Jamaica.
Hector, are they starting to gear up with idea for whatever for Belmont for the Belmont Stakes in a couple weeks?
yes, actually, Belmont is paying us to run trains just on Saturday for the normal race season. So every Saturday we're running trains to Belmont for racing, and yeah, we're gearing up for the Belmont Stakes. I think it's the 11th. Yep, Saturday the 11th is the Belmont Stakes this year. So
But there's no triple crown, so that might reduce the crowd.
well, I think they're going to limit it naturally. I think they're going to limit the amount of people attending to begin with, so that's going to suppress the amount of people that we have.
Are they limiting it? I thought they lifted the limits.
Oh, they did? Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
No, what you call it? There is a limit, and it's COVID, whether it's COVID, non-COVID, whatever. They found that they couldn't really handle the crowds of over 100,000. So I believe Naira has put a cap of 90,000 people for the Belmont Stakes, which is still a very sizable crowd. And I know the railroad had a hell of a time when we were doing those couple of crowds with 100,000 people to try and get get them in and get them out was brutal. And that's not a knock on the railroad. It was just the sheer numbers were crazy. Speaking of schedules, Hector, you want to fill us in on the summer schedule or summer schedule changes?
Yes, on the 23rd, the new timetables come out, so we're going to be bringing back our summer service. And there's actually a handful of trains coming back at certain times. Did you guys see the release?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so a handful of trains were added back, and then on the off-peak, a lot of the changes is due to track work. I have Nick on if you guys want to get an update on we have a lot of track work coming up through the summer. So if you guys want a 3-minute summary of it, Nick can do it.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Is that you, Nick?
That's me. I'm slouched over my.
That's all right.
So I actually just saw a ridership email that we got before, so I didn't want to interrupt you guys, but it looks like yesterday actually was our highest ridership. The time horizon is 100 days, so it was about 178,000, so it's estimated. Which is our highest, I think, probably ever, because it puts us at 62% of pre-pandemic levels. So we'll see if that keeps up or if it changes. I mean, obviously the summer, I think, it'll probably go down a bit just because a lot of companies with their, they have their remote work plans in place, especially, for the good weather. So, we'll see. But when it comes to our track work, so the next 2 weekends, we're going to be doing mainline outages on the main line for third track. So I believe it was mentioned before, but we are going full bore to get this project done by the end of the year. We have a couple of Sperry testing programs, which is really just for safety purposes. It doesn't necessarily preclude us from running service, but coming next week on the really, it's like the Montauk branch, but it affects from Babylon to Patchogue. We're going to be doing it every weekday. So there's going to be some busing programs and services reduced to 2 hourly. We're doing the same exact kind of work on Port Jeff, on the Port Jeff branch, the 25th and the 26th. I haven't seen the service plan for that yet, but it'll probably be similar in terms of just either a full busing program or a reduction in service. June 1, so this is quarterly work. So June 1, we're doing the same exact thing on a West Hempstead branch. And then to round that out, we are doing Ronkonkoma to Greenport. And we're also doing a rail drop where we lay out rail for future track work. So Ronkonkoma to Greenport on June 13th to the 16th. So after that, aside from all that, we are actually not going to be doing any mainline outages from Memorial Day essentially to July 4th. After July 4th, we're going to pick back up and we're going to have a bunch throughout July and August. During August and July also, we have 3 weekends where each of those weekends, which is the 16th and 17th of July, 23rd, 24th of July, and 13th and 14th of August, the Hempstead branch and the Atlantic branch, which is what serves St. Albans and that over there. Actually, I'm sorry, that's the Montauk branch. The Atlantic branch serves Laurelton and Rosedale. Will be out of service because we're going to be doing a mixture of concrete tie installation, and then also there's some switch work over there. So it's each of those 2 areas. At least with the Atlantic branch, we ran out of time and money to finish previous installations of concrete ties there last summer. So we did 4 of the 6 weekends that we needed to do. We're going to go back in and do the same exact work, except spread it out over 3 weekends this summer. And then on the Hempstead branch, we're also going to be doing concrete tie installation. But then on top of that, there's a new switch that was installed as part of the third track project called Park 2 interlocking, which we're going to be working on as well. So, and then just to round it out, in September and October, when we're really getting in there and doing probably double track outages either every weekend or almost every weekend, we are going to be doing additional concrete tie installations along the main line. So we did a bunch of those like early and mid-March to about the end of April in the vicinity of New Hyde Park, Floral Park, Garden City Park. So now it's going to be moving farther to the east. So it's going to be more Carl Place, Westbury, Newcastle area. And then, as I said, there's going to be a lot of work happening on the main line as we close out the project. I haven't really gone over those details with our service planning department just because things can change very quickly. And there's, not a whole lot of reason for me to talk to them about, things that are 3-4 months out when it comes to track work, just because, again, either things can move ahead of schedule or they can move behind schedule. But with such a long time horizon, it's rare that they actually happen when they're projected to happen. So if you guys have any questions about any of that, let me know. I tried to keep that as brief as possible, but also be somewhat informative.
No, that was very informative. We appreciate that, Nick.
I have a question. I saw in one of the articles that was in the news clips today about some work that's happening around Jamaica that's probably nothing to do with what you were just talking about.
Work around Jamaica.
Yeah, it's around Harold interlocking.
That's
That also had to do with tunnels, that the way it was described is no longer related to East Side access. And I just didn't know what that meant.
so Harold interlocking is immediately outside of the East River tunnels.
Okay.
That work, that, there's always work happening in there. It's the largest interlocking in North America because not only is it used by us, but it's used by Metro. Well, will be used by Metro North, but currently New Jersey Transit and then Amtrak as well, because they bring their either trains down over the Hellgate Bridge when they're in the Northeast corridor through Penn Station, then down through Jersey and Pennsylvania. And then obviously New Jersey Transit brings them through and then brings them back west for their PM rush. So that work over there is probably to do with East Side access, as you mentioned, because those tunnels are that connect the rest of our service to East Side access start to turn north there. And then they track north and then they turn west to go across the East River. I think it's either the 60th or 63rd Street tunnel is what it's called, but that's where that work is happening. So I don't know. It's really not nobody notices it because there's no one lives around there. And also it's really, there's so many tracks and there's a lot of route configurations that we can do to move trains around the work when it's happening. So I wouldn't really worry about that too much.
No, I just thought it was interesting that it actually said it's no longer part of East Side access. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. Okay.
So
That's all.
what I just want to add, one thing Nick was talking about, all those tie replacement is, in a sense, even though we're building a new track, but then the old tracks along there, we're upgrading those too while we're at it in the whole third track corridor. So when we're done, everything will be new in a sense. So that should be good for service. And then also this summer, the new Elmont station, construction of that is supposed to be done by August, end of July, early August. We still won't be able to run all the train options to Elmont because there's still Queens interlocking work happening there. But by October, the Queens interlocking work should be done. And also third track construction will be done, it looks like October-ish.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. That's ahead of schedule then.
Yes, we're still saying publicly it's still the end of the year, but
Oh, yeah, no, better to open early and be a hero than, you got to manage everybody's expectations, but that's still good news.
and then the beginning of the month, that was Denton Avenue. That was the last, we replaced 7 bridges as part of the project. That was the last bridge to be replaced. All 8 grade crossings that were eliminated, that was all completed. So essentially all that's left is really the new track and the railroad systems to make the third track operational is what's left. And a few stations, but the stations are wrapping up. It's Westbury and Westbury, where's the other one?
Is Mineola done?
Oh yeah, Westbury, Mineola. Those two are going to be done by this fall.
I gotta tell you something, Hector, kudos to railroad personnel and the maintenance guys that are able to replace a bridge on the weekend. It's really, the time lapse stuff that's online is really fascinating to watch. It's like, if you watch it in real time, it's like watching grass grow. But when you see them do this bridge in 48 hours, it really is remarkable that you guys have done that. I mean,
another bridge that we're replacing, not as part of that project, but on a Hempstead branch, is called Cherry Valley Avenue Bridge. That gets hit dozens of times a year. So we already have a contractor on board. They're mobilizing, and by this summer, they're going to start constructing that bridge.
Yeah, I grew up in Carl Place. When you replaced the Carl Place bridge, somebody actually had a bridge moving party. We all sat out there drinking and watching them move a bridge.
And you didn't invite us?
It wasn't my party to invite. I was invited.
Okay. We have a question in the chat. I know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer it about whether or not double deckers would be allowed to go do East Side access from Montauk and Port Jeff lines. Ron answered that they don't fit through the tunnel by a few inches, but I don't know if you'd like to elaborate on that.
I would not like to elaborate, but I will.
Okay.
No, they don't fit in those. Those are old tunnels that were used under the river. So yeah, the double deckers do not fit in the tunnels to go into Grand Central.
All right, well, answered the question. So I want to move down to something that is a concern of ours, and it's the electric bike and scooter enforcement.
Yes, so we've updated this year. We actually updated our on the website, the bike policy, the regulations and policies. So it's very clear that it defines the types of bikes that are allowed. It gives dimensions. Motorized bikes are not allowed at any time. And so again, it just goes back to it's an enforcement issue. I know this, each agency, they did a hazard assessment of the issue of all these, other vehicles that are popping up, people, the increasing use of it. And I know at headquarters, they're working on an overall policy to address this, but.
Okay, well, if you could just remind headquarters that it is a major concern of ours. Something that was in the news today kind of even cemented that. I think someone had a electric bike in for service and went on fire and burned the whole building down. So we'd hate to see that happen on one of our trains. The other thing,
Wait, I just want to, they're banned from Transport for London because of, even when they're non-charging, they've been known to cause fires too, so.
What's
We do have
interesting is
some.
I've seen a couple of people that have motorized bikes that fold and they actually put them on the overhead rack, but they are electric.
So
Is
there are
that-
different sizes and different battery sizes and the like. With a lot of the changes in. I think one of the other concerns that we've had, maybe this ties into it, is once the summer season comes, the ability to regulate the number of bikes that are on trains and whether that's going to constitute a crowding issue. And then who enforces that and what issues that might cause, like particularly if there's a seat space conflict with particularly the small motorcycles that come on, which is less of an issue. I mean, the fire issue with the scooters and the e-bikes are definitely an issue, but the motorcycles fit into that category too.
Oh, sorry.
No, now you're muted.
one of the suggestions that we had, and I think it's a pretty good one, is to bring back the bike permits. You don't have to charge for them. But at least this way, someone examines the bike, and then this way they can tell them right off the bat, that's a non-starter. We're not going to give you a permit for this because it's motorized or whatever. It was just a thought. So right now we're doing our research on this, gathering some information, but we're definitely going to be going to MTA headquarters with some suggestions and obviously expressing our concerns as we are to you now.
Well, Hector, I got a quick question. Is it somebody who has, like what I saw the other day, a motorized electric scooter that folds up and goes in the overhead rack? That is not allowed. That is not allowed, is it?
Well, motorized not allowed, but folding bikes are allowed. So that's like they found a loophole.
Yeah, so I saw it. I saw the scooter. It folds up, and I've also seen guys that have the bicycles that have the a release in the center, and it kind of folds, and that goes up on the overhead racks too. But they are, I don't want to say motorized, assisted. I guess they call them an assist. They don't call them motorized. They call them motor assist or something like that.
Right, that's
This
where
is
the language gets dicey. It's rider assist or passenger.
Rider assist. There you go.
This is Peter. I actually deal with this a lot in my regular job about anything motorized that has a battery pack that's being brought into buildings. The fire department does not allow any motorized battery device at all in any commercial building in the city. And one of the biggest reasons is where or how the battery was manufactured. I think I had a discussion on emails about this. A lot of the batteries that come out of China are the ones that are catching on fire and that you see on YouTube. They're not UL listed. But some of them that are made here in the US get that UL safety verification, certification, or whatever you want to call it, and are a little bit safer. So, I'm not sure what the right answer to all of this, but I did suggest, like it was brought up just now, starting the permitting process free, but at least the serial number or the model number of the bike is registered. And if it is on a red tag list, the individual will be told you can't use that.
Yeah, we'll put that in our
A
bullet
report
points,
or a
talking points,
request, or, yeah.
recommendations. The other thought that we had was in looking at the rules of conduct on the website, the bike and the bicycle rules of conduct are relatively easy to find for both Long Island Railroad and Metro North, but the rules of conduct in general don't seem to have been updated for some time. So maybe doing a big campaign to really make those bigger, bolder, as transit has been doing on subways, could be another way to really heighten people's awareness of what the rules and regs are.
Well, that's the first start. So you have people claiming ignorance of the law or ignorance of the code of conduct. Alrighty, I think we kind of exhausted that subject.
We have Jessica, who is here to give us our presentation as well.
Now you can exhaust her.
Okay, we only have 2 or 3 more for Hector, so why don't we just finish up Hector quick and then we'll move on to the presentation. Just basically the Penn Station, the corridor work, how that's going, Hector?
Yeah, sometime late August, early September, the connecting concourse, we're going to be opening up half of it. That's going to be, higher. Half of it is going to open, and then the remaining, I think it's really late this year or early next year for the full project to be completed.
Okay, great. You already touched on third track. So I guess the last thing is the Eastside Access Service Planning. Kathy said you have some information about some input that we may be able to provide, or?
Yeah, stay tuned. It looks like we're planning in June to be out, actually showing the schedules and engaging. So you'll be seeing something shortly.
Okay,
And we'll
great.
be discussing that at our June PCAC meeting too,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yep. It's essentially we're gonna release some of the draft. They're still being tweaked, but we're gonna be releasing the draft timetable so people can see what the options are. They're gonna be actually see the reverse peak trains that have never existed. They're gonna be able to see, what are new options. It's essentially going to be a new way of using the railroad because it's going to be a totally new timetable.
Yep. All righty. Any quick questions for Hector before we go? Or before we let him go? All righty.
Ron is waving his hand.
Ron, what do you have, Ron?
Just very quickly to Hector, 2 questions. One, what tickets are not accessible via the ticket vending machines and what's being done about that? And 2, Port Jeff and diesel country passengers in general, we have no clue what LIRR is thinking for us to have access to Grand Central. I mean, is it going to be an up and over that takes 20 or 30 minutes? Or is it going to be a quick, hopefully viable across the platform transfer somewhere? In other words, we don't want our commuting day to get a lot longer to take advantage of Eastside access. But we simply don't know what's being thought.
Yeah, so overall, the whole notion of official transfer as Jamaica, that's going to be gone. But for the diesel territory, we understand that concern. So there'll be options within, I think it's 4 minutes of getting to Jamaica. You would have a train to catch. So
And I assume the other way around.
Yeah. So only for those diesel territory trains, they're going to be, somewhat like a, similar. You're going to have an option. You're not going to have to wait 40 minutes for another train.
And the ticket question, some of the new discount tickets.
I think it's the opposite. I think. So some things aren't available. Some things are only available in machines, but then some of these new discounts are only available, in the e-ticket options. Omni is being rolled out slowly, so it's not up to the railroads yet. So we're like a few years away before some of those ticket options would be available for railroad customers.
Well, you mentioned e-ticket, but there is one issue with e-ticket, and that's if you don't know if your train's going to show up, you don't really want to, let alone whether you can get on. That would be at Penn typically, but show up in the morning. You don't want to, activate your e-ticket until you actually know the train's going to come, and sometimes you just don't know. So then you can't do it while you're boarding. That's not safe. So then you end up doing it after boarding. And that's a big reason why people would do it after boarding.
Understood.
All right, point well taken. Alrighty. Also, Hector, I see that we had one on the chat from Peter about the timekeeping. I guess because the labor fraud has been in the papers recently, and I know the railroad has been taking steps. I think you had some sort of new kind of time. Was it what you put your thumb on it or something, or?
You have these time clocks, so you have to swipe with your ID when you start work and when you end work.
Okay, but I mean, the railroad has been pushing it. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be reading about it in the newspapers because you wouldn't be catching anybody. So obviously, the railroad is being vigilant and trying to make some improvements in how they record the time. And I think that's a biggie, using the time, using the ID cards. Because I think at one point it was all like written down on a piece of paper. It was like almost like little punch cards or something. Alrighty, last call for Hector. Going once, going twice. All right, Hector, thank you so much. As always, we greatly appreciate you stopping by and updating us on everything.
No problem.
And Jessica, I believe you're up.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
How are you, man?
I'm Jessica Matthew. I've met some of you already, senior advisor in the chair's office, helping to head up the project around MTA's bike and ped strategic action plan. So today I have a couple of slides just to give you a quick update on where we stand with the effort, but hoping to save lots of time for your questions and feedback as well.
So Jessica, I've enabled the screen share just to give you an overview. Our council members have an understanding of the work that we have to do. We as a council, are required to present the MTA, and I don't know if you're going to cover this with
Yes.
with a list of recommendations for inclusion in the capital plan by June 1st. And then the MTA develops a strategic plan next year or by the end of the year. So it's kind of, the timing is a little off, but that is thanks to our diligent elected officials, and with much appreciation to Will Schwartz for his efforts to try and get it fixed, because the timing should have been, switched around a little bit. But so we'll be coming to you as a council with some thoughts and some general ideas that we as your staff have put together for bicycle and pedestrian access to Long Island Railroad facilities. But this is what Jessica, I think, is going to do, is provide an overview of why we're doing this and what the larger picture is.
Yep, exactly. And Lisa, we've sort of discussed this before, but there is that formal submission that's required by the statute June 1st, but we're hoping to really, be in close collaboration with you all through the remainder of this year and make sure that we're putting out a plan that all of us can stand behind. Okay. So just to jump in, I mean, we sort of covered this, right? In terms of the statute, the one thing I want to point out is that The state legislation requires us to consider bicycle and pedestrian access. We want to make this a more comprehensive plan and also include other micromobility modes like scooters, just to sort of get ahead of the curve and to the earlier conversation that was happening when I first joined, make sure that we're accommodating different types of micromobility in a safe way without interfering with our overall rail service. So the three main components that are required by the statute are considering bike and ped access on our bridges, to our subway, bus, and commuter rail stations, and onboard trains and buses where feasible. I think getting that where feasible language into the legislation was also a win on our part as well. So aside from the statute, I think, that we're trying to be responsive to the tremendous growth in cycling that's happened over the past decade across the entire region, but specifically within New York City. Between 2014 and 2019, there was an average annual growth of 4.7% year over year in cycling, culminating in 194 million trips in 2019. And then we saw that trend become even more pronounced from 2019 to 2020, looking at the impacts of the pandemic, 33% growth in just 1 year, which is a staggering number. As we are putting together this plan, we've put forward these three core planning principles. First, really a focus on transportation equity and focusing on people with disproportionately long commute times, who have affordability issues, and who have also experienced outsized environmental justice impacts over the years. And there are lots of areas where even within the city of New York, we're thinking about how bicycles in particular can serve as a first mile, last mile mode for people that live in subway deserts. Proactive stakeholder engagement. Of course, we're here today. We've started a lot of meetings with different city government partners throughout the region through this effort. And then also there's been an ongoing first mile, last mile study as well. And those folks have also been meeting regularly with different municipalities. We're of course internally coordinating on all of those outcomes. And then we're also, engaging with different bike and ped experts and advocates. I mean, a lot of people have worked in this field for quite some time, and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but really think about how the MTA can complement a lot of the ongoing work. And then integrated planning. Here, what we're getting at is that we don't want to publish this plan at the end of this year and just have it sit on a shelf. We want to make sure that as we're developing it, that we're adapting MTA processes, whether it's ops planning or the 20-year needs assessment, to include a consideration of bicycle and pedestrian access measures as we go through. There are a couple of different areas we're looking at a high level. First, bike and scooter access to subway stations and bus stops. Here, we're mostly working with city DOT on citing bike parking, citing city bike docks near our stations and stops. And then also looking at bike network improvements leading up to our stops, especially areas, for example, like Canarsie. And then secondly, looking at bike and scooter access to Long Island Railroad and Metro North stations. Again, there's a focus on bike network improvements and bike parking. Here we have, more flexibility to site bike parking at our stations, either directly or through our private parking operators. And those are conversations we're continuing to have. We really also want to expand secure bike parking options so that people feel comfortable leaving their bicycle behind for the whole day, and then maybe they'll be less inclined to bring it on board as well. Integration with bike sharing services. I talked about the citing of the docks, but something else we're thinking about looking ahead to when we have Omni implemented is being able to integrate both trip planning as well as payments through Omni, so that from a user perspective, you sort of have this seamless end-to-end travel experience. And then finally, the pedestrian and bike access to our bridges. So we have quite a few $100 million plus of capital improvements planned to the RFK Bridge and to the Henry Hudson as well. And we, will continue to evaluate opportunities to improve bike and ped access on an ongoing basis on our other bridge facilities. This will also, of course, be part of our 20-year needs assessment process. And then just generally like a very high level timeline in terms of our process. As mentioned, we've sort of started holding these initial kickoff meetings and have these initial strategies for exploration that we're refining through the input that we're getting from different stakeholders. We're, I think now, entering this much more detailed phase of specific gap analysis, researching best practices, and coming up with real recommendations in concrete locations that we want to put forward. And through this whole time, we'll continue with our stakeholder outreach as well. And then this all, of course, will culminate in the publication of the strategic action plan in December, although we expect our implementation work to continue into next year too. So that is all I have. Any questions or comments?
Yes, I have a quick question for you.
Mhm.
The bike storage units that I see that are at some individual stations, are those run by MTA or are those an outside agency? There are these little boxes that hold 2 bicycles, and there's like 3 or 4 of them that hold 8. Is that MTA or is that who runs that?
So on Long Island, most of those are like municipalities, like villages or towns. They usually put it on their property. It's a program with state DOT, but the railroad doesn't control any of those.
Oh, they have nothing to do with that. Okay.
Yeah, they're like bike lockers you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a rectangle, and you can come in one side and the other and just park a bike in there.
So good question to piggyback off of that, Larry. If there was something like an Omni and Unipod, which is what they they're trying out at Grand Central. If there was something like an Unipod that were going to be taking the place of one of those, would that need to be done in conjunction with the railroad, or how would that work? Because that's one of the recommendations, obviously, that we're looking to expand.
Actually, now that Kathy's here, we got in touch with with those folks, the Metro North folks that are working on that, and we've had a few meetings over the last few months with the vendor to explore what stations we could do that at. So we're looking at it. We haven't decided on anything, but that's something that the railroad can get into an agreement with that company and put it on our property if you wanted to.
Right. I know that revenue optimizing it and maximizing revenue as possible on properties that are adjacent to Long Island Railroad stations or are part of Long Island Railroad stations is the goal or the key. So I don't know if they bring in rent or if that's what the long-term structure of those is, but it would seem like they make money as well.
Well, like the one at Grand Central, I think we're paying them to provide that service. If they were able to figure out a way of selling the advertising on there, that we can share there could be some revenue to be shared. But that's all part of discussions of what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And then at least in terms of the way we're thinking about citing any of these Unipods or anything similar, we're not looking to take away any, parking spaces, but, utilizing other locations like on a sidewalk or other unpaved area.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Jessica?
I'm going to ask if anybody has any thoughts or input as to what could go into our individual and collective plans as well.
Excellent point.
I added wayfinding. We have in our musings and jottings, increasing protected bike lanes. As you know, Hector, I know you know, bike lanes in a lot of suburban communities are a piece of paint. And that's not protected. So working with municipalities to protect unprotected bike lanes and such. And I don't know if that would be something that would be part of what your efforts would entail, or if that, what those, what the extent of your relationship with the towns, villages, et cetera, would be, and trying to provide access.
Yeah, as part of the first mile, last mile study that the transit oriented development team is leading, that will actually culminate in like 10 actual specific pilot projects in various municipalities. So they've started an outreach process to, gauge interest from different towns. And you could imagine where, there could be an investment from a municipality and a bike network and an enhancement to bike parking that MTA makes, that could be part of one of those pilot projects.
Okay, anybody have anything else, or?
I guess the goal could be to encourage them to also apply for MPO funds.
Yeah, and lots of even federal opportunities now too.
All righty, last call for Jessica. Anybody got anything else for Jessica, or? Okay, Jessica, obviously we're gonna be in touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking forward.
Speed dial.
We're looking forward to receiving your recommendations, and of course available to chat before or after that as well.
Good, let's I'm gonna hit you up about chatting before then.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Sounds good, Lisa.
Great, thank you.
Hey, just
Really
a trivial
appreciate
thing I just looked up while I was doing. Apparently the lockers that are run by the county at the Belmore train station, the cost is $40 a year, and when you return the key, you get your $40 back.
Oh,
Go
So it's
figure
like
that one out.
security deposit.
Yeah. When do you get something for free? God help us.
Well, it's supposed to be encouraging the bike use, so.
Yeah, I had to read that like 3 times to make sure I read what I saw.
wonder if there's
Alrighty,
any
great.
statistics on usage at these bike facilities. There must be.
So we had put together a comprehensive sort of survey of what bike facilities and bike parking exists at all of the commuter rail stations. But the utilization data, since it is sort of, especially for the Long Island Railroad territory, a little bit piecemeal in terms of the jurisdiction, we don't have that utilization data on hand, but it is part of the data we're interested in digging into.
Okay, great, thank you.
All
Great.
right.
All right, just a quick housekeeping note. Since we do have 3 board members now, I just want to go back and approve a little late, but we're gonna just want to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, and the meeting minutes, did anyone see anything on the meeting minutes? They look good to me, but
We're good.
we're good.
Motion to accept.
Except, Christie, will you second?
I will second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? No objections heard. Minutes will be accepted as read. All right, so then you just move down. We pretty much established our council priorities at the last meeting. But again, our 2022 council priorities, that's going to be a living, breathing document. So I mean, just because that's what we're looking for at this point in time, obviously, if anything comes up that's a concern going down the road, we will tack it on to our council priorities. So please let us know if there's a concern for case in point, or a concern regarding the motorized bikes. It's an issue that we want to try and push now. It's not too terrible now because our ridership is under 60% of pre-pandemic levels. But when we started inching up to 70, 75, maybe 80%, this could very well be an issue. It might even be an issue as early as this summer, you know, on some of those Montauk trains going out to the Hamptons on Friday afternoons and Saturday mornings. But again, if you have anything that you feel is a major issue that we're not addressing at any time, notify me and Lisa, and we will look into it. Do we have any old business that we want to bring up?
Lisa, I just have a quick question for you. The information about the for transit check and all that, is that public knowledge yet? Should we embargo it, so to speak?
It is, I've not gotten the release, the press release from them. I will let you know as soon as I get it. That
Okay.
is, they did just, you know, we sent off Jerry's quote, and waiting, they said it would be introduced and released today.
Okay, so I'll wait. No, only because I would love to put it up on the Fail Road group, because people have kind of like bitched at me and things of that nature. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
somewhat redeem myself partially.
Absolutely. I would say not yet, but
Okay,
let's,
I'll wait.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know as soon as the trigger is pullable.
Well, along those lines, well, we won't officially announce anything until we get a green light. Apparently someone did leak this to Newsday, because I already got a call. In fact, it was almost simultaneously for the same time that Lisa reached out to me to let me know that the legislation was going to be introduced. Alfonso Castillo from Newsday was, hey, I heard this is happening. Want to comment on it?
Wasn't me. I think the MTA may have done it, actually.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, I was just curious. It was
Yeah.
within 5 or 10 minutes of each other that you contacted me and Alfonso contacted me. So it was just like,
Jerry, what's the position going to be? Is it going to be, this is a great first step, that we hope that they'll do more for people that, you know, I mean, what's the position that we're going to take on this?
I think
Because
I
again,
think we actually need to see the legislation. I mean, the position I took with Alfonso was, it's great. It might be, you know, locking the barn after the horse is gone, but there are, again, that's just unfortunately for the people who got laid off during COVID, because the legislation does go back to March 2020.
right, but it's only people that were still employed by them.
Right.
If you were laid
So-
off or whatever, you're out of the legislation.
Yeah, so pretty much what I told Alfonso, half a loaf is better than none, but you know, it's not perfect, but on the other hand, I wanted to keep, you know, the conversation I had with Alfonso is I wanted to keep things positive. I didn't want to turn around and piss off Schumer's office or any of the congressional delegation that actually got around to doing this. And there were a lot, you got to admit, over the last couple of years, there's been a hell of a lot going on in Washington. So we were kind of put on the back burner. So, you know, I tried to
I would
balance.
also say, you know, Rice's office raised this issue in June of 2022, and the IRS was pushing them off too.
Yeah, do you
So-
have any problems if I reach out to Rice's people? I mean, Schumer's people, I mean, I actually started writing an op-ed and I kind of like put it aside because I was too angry to write it, so to speak. Is it because I saw the email came out from Rice's office? Do you have any problem if I reach out to them and talk to them, or you'd rather I don't?
About, what would you say?
About who is being excluded from this bill? And if there's anything that could be done somehow retroactively. I don't think there can, because the money's gone. WageWorks and all the other companies, including the MTA that we're holding, it's gone. So I don't think there's any recourse in getting it
Yeah,
back.
'cause-
I mean, I had asked them that a year ago.
Yeah, well, no,
honestly.
we all did when Schumer drafted the first round of the bill and we had our
Right.
issues with it. So this is kind of the same bill reworded. You know, but I would love to reach out to Rice's people who sent the press release, but if you'd rather I don't, I won't.
Well, we actually seen the legislation, the actual
Yeah,
written
it was,
legislation. Yeah, I
that
know
was
I
on
saw
the
that press
attachment.
release.
It was attached. It's very short. It's like
Oh,
30
okay, so the
lines.
dear colleague, yeah, yeah.
It was the other piece with the dear colleague.
Oh, okay.
Basically just gives the IRS the ability to do this. I think that the fight is with the IRS, quite honestly. I don't know that it's with Rice's office. They're the ones that held us up. And
Yeah, that's actually what Schumer had told us as well, is that it was that's why they were actually doing the legislation now, was because they had hoped the IRS would come around. And apparently the IRS did have the power to do this on their own. And for whatever reason, they didn't. I know that they're having issues of their own. They're extremely short-staffed and they're having their own problems. So maybe they just didn't want to address it. So, but remember, Schumer had said that if the IRS didn't address it, then he would take the tact of enabling legislation.
Which he did nothing.
Well, yeah, well, now they're getting around to it, but how long ago did we have that press conference? That was a year ago, right?
Over a
well,
year ago.
this is,
Over a year ago.
I mean, this is what he's doing. They told me, he doesn't introduce legislation. So this is how it's being done.
Right, because he's the speaker. So,
I think that we
that's why
can,
Gillibrand, I guess, is.
I think that we can write a letter to the editor or something like that and say that this is going to help thousands of people. We still need to be mindful that there are plenty for whom it's too late. The IRS held their ground, and once again, the public got screwed. Maybe not in those words.
Yeah, well, yeah. We can rephrase it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I maybe I'll reach out to Rice's people just for fun. See if I get anywhere. I probably won't, but.
Well, I would say, that let's wait till the legislation's introduced.
Okay, all right,
I
I'll wait.
wouldn't want them to hold it off, to hold it
Yeah,
up.
yeah, let's just see what's introduced, and then we can react to it,
Yeah,
in
the
an
research,
appropriate manner.
the
I mean, I
research
think
that I
it's really
did,
positive that it's getting introduced and that it's going to help more people than it's not going to help.
well,
And
that's,
that, there are a lot of people who lost their jobs, and even if it had been, I think that they would have had to go and squeeze Health Equity or whoever the former company was, from day one, and they probably make that company go broke. And then
well,
they're
that's
gonna
why
talk
those
about-
that's why those companies lobbied not to give back the money, because we're talking millions, maybe billions of dollars. I have no idea what number we're talking about. But if they had to all of a sudden give back all that money, a lot of these companies would go bye-bye. They wouldn't exist anymore. And now they've got a huge windfall because they kept it all. So somebody pocketed all that money.
Yeah, the
So
only
I'll
problem-
wait. The way I'm seeing it is that there was no number attached to it. It was HR blank. So I think it gets introduced, then it goes to committee before it even gets to debate on the floor. That's the way it normally goes. So this is step 1 of 40, before it even gets to a vote.
How about when they send me the finished press release and they tell me that it's being introduced, I'll ask them what the next steps are.
That's fine. And
I can let them know that we're still would like to know if there's anything that can be done for the people who lost their jobs and whose money is not recoupable through this.
that's exactly what we need.
Okay.
Because I
that
disagree.
is the conversation that we've been trying to have with them.
Yeah, I mean, I
But-
disagree with you, Lisa, on one thing that you said. I think this bill is going to help less than it can, I don't think it's going to help more people than less. I think it's going to help less than more. Because I think a lot of people over the course of the year lost their jobs, changed their jobs and things of that nature, and they would not be eligible for the return. So, I would say maybe 30 or 40% of people held their jobs over the years through COVID and all that. Again, I'm making up the number. I don't know.
But realistic, but I mean, if we're realistic, I mean, because that 90-day window after you lost your job expired 2 years ago,
Exactly.
it's going to be virtually impossible to recover their monies. I think the best that can be done for them at this point in time is if they lost $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is, maybe somehow the IRS gives them a tax credit for that money or whatever, but they would have to prove the loss. And I don't know if anybody even keeps those records.
Oh, I'm sure they can. All they need is to go back and get a copy of their pay stub, and they'll
Yeah.
see what's in the account or, what's on their card or whatever. So,
Well, you know what? That's something I think we should let the legislation come out, or the proposed legislation that they want to put out.
I'll hold off.
Yeah,
No
just
problem.
and then we'll respond to it, and then we might actually make a recommendation like that. Well, hey, if we can't give them their money back, maybe there's some sort of tax credit or tax deduction or something they could get for that lost money,
Okay.
on a one-shot deal, obviously. Alrighty, any other old business?
I'm still going to
Any
count
new
it as a
business?
win.
Anything we
What's
get
that?
is a win. I call it a partial win.
Yep.
That's called the W.
One
Listen,
line
I'm
of
a
the
Mets
W.
fan. We'll take the W.
Take the W.
Ron is raising the two fingers for a half a W.
Lisa, if you could please, or Hector, if you're hearing me, if we could get a follow-up on my question about the tickets. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to just get tickets from machines. Some people like me prefer paper tickets.
For which tickets, though, were you talking?
Well, the
specifically
new
about?
discounted ones you would use for commuting, say, a couple days a week.
Well, like the new 20 trip, that right now there's the existing machines is the stock you could put in there is limited. So, we're stuck with what we have. So that couldn't be done that quickly. That's why it's only electronic. So like that one won't happen, quickly.
Quickly, I understand.
It's
But-
also a pilot program. So if it becomes a permanent program, maybe.
And
Yeah, that's the whole thing. They want to go through reprogramming the machines and this and that and the other thing. And then 2 months from now or 3 months from now, the board decides that, well, that didn't work, so we're going to get rid of it. And they got to go back and reprogram the machines again. I'm just being realistic. I agree with you that it's something that should be looked into. But I think we need to get it made permanent first. And then it's an issue we can push.
And the other thought was just, I appreciate what Hector said today about the Port Chef and Diesel Country passengers for Eastside access. We would like to be involved, to know what's going on, and be part of the discussion.
Well, I'm a Montauk branch customer, so trust me. I feel your pain. I'm a diesel dude too, so.
Me too, even, well,
I will be representing you.
And Jerry, I know that because I frequently see you quoted, typically by Alphonse in Newsday.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Anything else?
You got a lot of dieselers here.
Going once, going twice? Yep. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Christie made a motion to adjourn. Larry looks like he's seconding it. I see the hand go up. All in favor? Aye. All right, good night, everybody. Thank you for coming. And
Night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank
just
you.
to say, see you next month, but next month's PCAC, so I'll see you in 2 months. All right, thanks again. Bye-bye now.
Bye.